During the Mexican Revolution, as known in the Museum of the Revolution, people's food was very limited. There was lack of food because many fields were destroyed and transportation was interrupted. Most people ate beans, corn, and tortillas. There wasn't enough meat, so meals were simpler before. Compared to the Porfiriato, food was scarce for most families. Rich people had more food, but poor people had fewer options. Was food the same for everyone? No, it wasn't. The diet during the revolution was one of hardest in Mexican history. Many families survived with very little and shared what they had. Clothing during the revolution was practical and simple. In the museum there are uniforms and clothes used by soldiers and civilians. There were worn clothes because people didn't have money to buy new ones. Clothes were cheaper than in peaceful times and were less elegant. Soldiers wore uniforms, boots, and sombreros. Women wore long skirts and shawls. Compared to the Porfirian fashion, revolutionary clothing was more functional but less elegant. Were people interested in fashion? No, they weren't. Survival was more important than appearance during the revolution. Housing during the revolution was unsafe and unstable. There were many damaged houses because battles destroyed the towns and cities. In the museum, there are photographs of ruined buildings. There wasn't security for families, and many people left their homes. Compared to early times, homes were smaller and less protected. Rich houses were safer than poor houses, but even they were affected. Was life at home peaceful? No, it wasn't. The revolution was one of the most violent periods in Mexican history, and housing conditions were very difficult. Transportation during the revolution was dangerous and slow. There were trains, but many were attacked or stopped. Horses were more common than trains of soldiers. Was transportation safe? No, it wasn't. Entertainment was very limited. There weren't the daughters of big parties like before. People sang, told story, and shared moment to forget the war. These activities were simple but more meaningful compared to peaceful times. Entertainment was less frequent but more valuable during the revolution. Porfirio Diaz was born on September 15, 1830 in Oaxaca, Mexico, and died on July 2, 1915 in Paris, France. He was married twice and had several children. There was formal education in his life because he studied at the Institute of Science and Arts of Oaxaca. He became a military leader at young age. He was famous because he ruled Mexico for more than 30 years. During his government, there were many changes in the country. Railroads with both sides grew and the economy improved. However, there wasn't political freedom and there were many social problems. Was his government democratic? No, it wasn't. His government was more authoritarian than previous ones. Physically, Porfirio Diaz was of medium height and thin build. He had dark hair, a mustache, and sometimes a beard. He usually wore military uniforms or elegant suits, which were more formal than the clothes of most people at that